Less chaos, more life. How I found balance in a cubicle world. I used to think my life was normal. Wake up at 6:30 a.m., chug coffee like it was oxygen, and stumble into an office where I'd spend 8 hours or more staring at a screen. I'd answer emails, nod through meetings, and scroll Slack like it was my job description. By the time I got home, I was a zombie too wiped to cook, too wired to sleep, collapsing on the couch with a takeout box and Netflix. Weekends, a blur of laundry and guilt over the workouts I skipped. I was 34 single and stuck in a loop I couldn't name. This was it, right? The adult dream? Then came the day that broke me. It was a Thursday, gray and dreary, and I was late on a project I'd promised my boss by Friday. I'd spent the morning bouncing between tabs emails, a news article about layoffs, a coworker's meme when my manager popped by. "How's it going?" she asked, all casual. I mumbled something vague, heat creeping up my neck. She left, and I sat there, staring at a blank spreadsheet, my chest tight. I wasn't just behind, I was lost. Not just in work, but in life. I hadn't read a book in months. My gym membership was a $50 a month donation. My friends? I couldn't remember the last time I'd called them. I wasn't living, I was surviving. That night, I didn't turn on the TV. I sat on my lumpy couch, takeout untouched, and asked myself a question that wouldn't let go. When did I stop being in charge of my own days? The answer hit hard. I'd let the chaos take over work, tech, expectations, and I'd given up the reins. I was a passenger in my own story, and I hated it. So I decided to fight back, not with grand gestures, but with something simpler, cutting the crap. I didn't know it then, but I was stepping into minimalism, not the trendy, empty apartment kind, but a way of living that stripped away the noise and gave me back my time, my focus, my peace. This book is that story, how a frazzled office drone like me learned to work smarter, spend wiser, and live fuller, all by doing less. It's not a fairy tale. I still screw up. Ask me about the time I binged YouTube instead of sleeping. But it's real, and it worked. If I can do it, a guy who once thought balance was a buzzword for yoga moms, so can you? Here's the deal. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to share what I stumbled through, the messy wins, the dumb mistakes, and the tools that stuck. Each chapter is a piece of my journey, from wrestling my attention back from the digital abyss to figuring out how to not be broke by payday. At the end of each, I'll toss you a challenge, nothing huge, just a nudge to try what I did. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't need more hours, more money, or more willpower. You just need less of what's drowning you. Ready to ditch the chaos? Let's start where I did, by admitting we're in over our heads. Imagine me a year ago, 34, buried under a pile of papers on my desk, clutching my third coffee of the day, eyes glued to a screen crammed with tabs while my phone buzzed non-stop, a typical office drone racing through the grind until I forgot who I was. One Thursday night, I collapsed onto my sofa with a cold pizza box, scribbled the word enough into an old notebook, and decided to take back my life one clumsy step at a time. From silencing notifications to brewing coffee at home to rediscovering quiet moments by the river. Welcome to Akasha Books, a warm little nook where we share incredible experiences about personal growth and the wondrous world of books. This isn't just a spot for fleeting inspiration on the page, it's a journey we take together to explore, learn, and live more fully every day. Less chaos, more life. How I found balance in a cubicle world isn't magic, it's my real story. From a guy drowning in work to someone who learned to live lighter yet fuller with a $50 guitar and a handful of true friends. If you're searching for a way out of the mess, join me page by page, change by change. Now, let's dive into the book together. The day I stopped running. Picture this, it's a Thursday gray, dreary, the kind of day where the sky looks like it's giving up and I'm sitting at my desk, 3 coffees deep, surrounded by a chaos I'd built myself. My laptop's groaning under 17 open tabs emails, Slack threads, a half-finished sales report. I'd promised my boss by Friday. My desk is a crime scene. Post it's peeling like old scabs, a stale bagel from Tuesday growing its own ecosystem, a mug with coffee stains older than my lease. My phone's buzzing Tom from 2 cubicles over with a quick question, a news alert. I don't need a text from Dave about trivia night I'll never make. I'm 34 single, and drowning in a fluorescent purgatory I'd convinced myself was normal. This was my life, 8 hours of busy, home to a couch and a takeout box, rinse, repeat. I thought I was adulting. I was wrong. That Thursday broke me not with a bang, but with a quiet snap. I felt in my chest. Jen, my manager, swung by sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, voice chipper as ever. How's it coming? I lied. Great. Heat creeping up my neck. And she left me staring at a blank screen, my heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. I didn't sign up for. I wasn't great. I was a fraud. I'd spent the morning bouncing between tabs, answering emails about nothing, scrolling X for memes that hit too close to home, a cartoon of a guy buried in paperwork, captioned work. Smarter. I was that guy, minus the charm. By lunch, I'd shoveled a $12 sandwich into my mouth, crumbs falling like tiny failures, and realized I wasn't living, I was surviving, barely, a hamster on a wheel with Wi-Fi and a caffeine addiction. That night, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't even heat the pizza. I'd grabbed pepperoni, my go-to grease hug. I sat on my lumpy couch, box cold on the coffee table, and stared into the void. My apartment was a mess, dishes stacked like a Jenga tower, laundry spilling out like a cry for help, books I'd meant to read gathering dust. I wasn't just tired, I was hollow. And then I asked it the question that wouldn't let go. When did I stop running my own life? The answer hit like a brick. I hadn't stopped, someone else had taken the reins. My inbox, my phone, Jen's quick asks, the endless hum of the 9 to 5 they owned me. I was a puppet, jerked around by every ping, every deadline, every urgent that wasn't. I'd bought the lie that busyness was winning, but all I had was a neck cramp and a bank account that laughed at me. So I decided to fight, not with a grand quit my job and move to a cabin fantasy though. God, the silence sounded nice, but with something simpler, cutting the crap. I grabbed a cheap notebook, some freebie with a logo I didn't care about, flipped it open, and scrawled one word, enough. My hands shook, not from the coffee, from the weight of it. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I was done being a passenger in my own story. That scribble wasn't a plan, it was a rebellion, a shaky first step toward a life I could call mine. This book is that journey, how a frazzled office drone like me, a guy who once thought balance was for yoga moms and tech bros with standing desks, learned to ditch the chaos and grab the wheel. It's not a fairy tale. I didn't turn into a millionaire or a minimalist monk with an empty apartment and a smug grin. I'm still me, still spill coffee on my jeans, still laugh at dumb X memes, still screw up and reset. But I found a way to live lighter, less noise, less clutter, less should and fuller, more time, more me, more moments that matter. It's messy, it's real, and it worked. If you're reading this, I'm betting you know the chaos too. Maybe your inbox is a war zone, your day's a blur of meetings and pings, your night's a crash landing on a couch you barely own. Maybe you're 30, 40, 50, doesn't matter, and you're wondering where your life went, why you're running a race with no finish line. I've been there, buried, tired, stuck, and I'm here to tell you, you don't need more. Not more hours, not more cash, not more hustle. You need less of what's drowning you, and you don't need a guru to find it. You need you raw, fed up, ready to start. This isn't a lecture, I'm no expert, just a guy who stumbled out of the grind with a notebook and a hunch. Each chapter's a piece of my fight focus that cut through the noise. Money that stopped choking me, calm that tamed my storms, habits that held me, a mind that broke free, relationships that mattered, a life that lasted. I'll share the wins, the reservoir drives, the $50 guitar, Dave's laugh, and the flops the burned rice. The late nights, the pizza binges because it's all real. At the end of each, I'll toss you a nudge, nothing huge, just a spark to try it yourself. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't fix chaos with chaos. You fix it with less. Less that's yours. Ready to stop running? I was 2 a year ago, on that couch, with a cold slice and a pen. Let's start where I did. Admitting we're in over our heads and deciding it's enough. Turn the page, we'll figure it out together. One shaky step at a time. Before we dive into the good stuff, how I clawed my way out of the corporate hamster wheel, let's take a hard look at the mess I was in. Picture a guy who thought work-life balance was something you win at a raffle, not something you live. That was me, overworked, underslept, and convinced that if I just hustled harder, I'd magically unlock a better life. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Instead, I hit a wall, and not the motivational kind with a "you got this" poster. This part's about facing the chaos head on, because you can't fix what you don't see. Buckle up, it's about to get real, and a little ridiculous. The day I realized I wasn't living, I'll never forget that Thursday. It was one of those gray, soul-crushing days where the office felt like a fluorescent purgatory, a place where dreams go to die under the hum of bad lighting and the drone of a printer that hadn't worked right since 2012. I was 34, single, and drowning in a sea of spreadsheets, my third coffee trembling in my hand like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My desk was a disaster zone. Post-its stuck to every surface like a cry for help, a stale bagel from Tuesday growing its own ecosystem, and a laptop so overloaded it hadn't rebooted since Obama's second term. I'd promised my boss, Jen, a project update by Friday, a breakdown of last quarter's sales figures. But at 10 a.m., I was staring at a blank screen, my brain ping-ponging between panic and a sudden, irrational urge to Google best cat videos of all time. That morning wasn't special. It was painfully normal. I'd rolled out of bed at 6:30, hit snooze 3 times, and chugged a lukewarm coffee while scrolling X on my phone, because nothing says seize the day like 15 minutes of strangers arguing about politics. By the time I got to the office, I was already behind, my inbox a war zone of unread messages with subject lines like urgent, Cree feedback, and can you hop on a quick call. I told myself I'd tackle the big stuff later, after I caught up. So I started small, answered a few emails, skimmed Slack for team updates, and somehow ended up reading a news article about a tech layoff I didn't even care about. Productivity? 0. Caffeine buzz? Through the roof. Then Jen swung by, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. "How's it coming?" she asked, her voice all chipper and oblivious to the dumpster fire that was my morning. Great. I lied, my face heating up like a guilty kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. She nodded, flashed a smile, and left. I sank lower in my chair, the weight of my own bullshit crushing me. Great? I wasn't great. I was a fraud, a guy who looked busy, but hadn't done a damn thing. The sales update was still a blank slate, and my to-do list was a novel I'd never finish. I'd spent 2 hours bouncing between tabs, replying to pointless emails, and refreshing my inbox like it was a slot machine about to pay out. It didn't. By noon, I was a wreck. I shuffled to the deli downstairs, dropped $12 I didn't have on a turkey sandwich that tasted like regret, and ate it at my desk, crumbs falling like tiny symbols of my defeat. I chewed mechanically, staring at the wall, and that's when it hit me like a freight train. I'm not living. I was surviving, barely trapped in a loop of chaos that I'd somehow convinced myself was normal. Wake up, work, crash, repeat. My days were a blur of fluorescent lights and keyboard clicks, my nights a haze of takeout and Netflix binges to numb the exhaustion. I hadn't hit the gym in months. My $50 membership was basically a charitable donation to Planet Fitness. My friends? I'd ghosted them so long, they probably thought I'd moved to Canada or joined a cult. And my big dreams, writing a novel, traveling somewhere that wasn't my couch, were buried under a mountain of "I'll get to it later" excuses that never came true. I wasn't even bad at my job. I was decent good enough to keep the paychecks rolling in, to nod through meetings and churn out reports that didn't suck. But I was terrible at living. I'd bought into the lie that busyness was a badge of honor, that if I just kept running on this treadmill of urgent tasks, I'd eventually get somewhere. Where, exactly? A corner office? A bigger TV? A heart attack at 4040 AL I had to show for it was a caffeine addiction, a neck cramp that wouldn't quit, and a bank account that mocked me every time I checked it. Balance, real balance, where I could work hard and still have a life was a fantasy. I'd stop chasing. Let's talk about the phone for a sec, because that little bastard was my kryptonite. Studies say the average person checks their phone 96 times a day, once every 10 minutes. And I'm pretty sure I was beating that record. It sat there on my desk, buzzing like a needy toddler. An email from Jen, a Slack. Ping from my teammate Tom, a news alert about some CEO I'd never meet. Every ding yanked me out of whatever I was doing, and I'd dive in 5 minutes here, 10 there, until I'd burned an hour chasing nothing. X was the worst. I'd scroll through hot takes and memes, telling myself it was a quick break, but it was a black hole. Researchers say we waste 2-3 hours a day on distractions like that, and I was Exhibit A, living proof that you can look busy while accomplishing zip. Back to that Thursday. After my sad sandwich, I tried to rally. I opened the sales file, typed a heading Q3 analysis, and stared at it like it was a modern art exhibit. I didn't get. My brain was mush, fried from the morning's chaos. I glanced at my phone again, another Slack message. Hey, did you see the client's note? I didn't reply. I couldn't. I was done. The office buzzed around me, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, Tom laughing too loud at something dumb, but I tuned it out. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the truth sink in. This isn't working. Not the project, not the job, not my life. That night, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't even heat up the pizza I'd grabbed on the way home, pepperoni. My go-to comfort grease. I sat on my lumpy couch, the box cold on the coffee table, and stared into space. My apartment was a mess. Dishes in the sink, laundry spilling out of the hamper, a stack of unread books gathering dust. I wasn't just tired, I was hollow. And that's when I asked myself the question that wouldn't let go: when did I stop running my own life? The answer was a punch to the gut. I hadn't stopped, it'd been taken from me, piece by piece, by the chaos I'd let in. My inbox owned me, my phone controlled me. The endless hum of the office dictated my every move. I wasn't in charge, I was a puppet, jerked around by every notification, every deadline, every urgent request that wasn't urgent at all. I'd fallen into a trap one you might know too well. They call it the busyness illusion, and it's a doozy. We're taught that if we're slammed racing from task to task, inbox at 100 calendar packed, we're winning. It's the corporate gospel. Hustle harder, grind longer, and you'll make it. But make it where? I was hustling, sure hustling to nowhere. A study from Harvard said it best. Busyness doesn't equal productivity. In fact, the more we multitask, the less we get done, up to 40% less, if you trust the numbers. I'd been running a marathon with no finish line, and my prize was a life I didn't recognize. Let me paint you the full picture of where I was. My morning started with a phone alarm I'd snooze until my arm hurt, then a mad dash to the office with a $5 slot I'd spill half of. My days were a circus, meetings about meetings, emails about emails, and enough Slack threads to knit a sweater. I'd leave work after 7 too wiped to cook, so I'd order takeout $20 share, $15 there, because who has energy for a stove when you're emotionally toast? Weekends were supposed to be my savior, but they weren't. I'd sleep till noon, binge some show I didn't even like, and feel guilty about the gym I didn't go to, the novel I didn't write, the friends I didn't call. I was a hamster on a wheel, and the wheel was on fire. But here's the thing. I didn't see it not really until that Thursday. I'd been coasting on autopilot, telling myself this was just how it is. Adulting, right? Bills, jobs, stress standard package. Except it wasn't standard, it was suffocating. I wanted more, not more money or more hours, but more me. Time to think. Space to breathe. A day that didn't end with me feeling like I'd lost a fight with my own schedule. I wanted balance, that elusive unicorn I'd heard about in self-help podcasts I never finished. So I did something small but radical. I grabbed a cheap notebook from my desk drawer, the kind you get free at conferences, with some logo I didn't care about, and flipped it open. My hands shook a little, not from the coffee, but from the weight of what I was admitting. I scribbled one word, enough. That was it. No grand plan, no inspirational quote, just a tired guy drawing a line in the sand. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. Not another day of chaos masquerading as progress. Not another week of surviving instead of thriving. That notebook became my lifeline, though I didn't realize it then. It was the first crack in the dam, the moment I stopped letting the world run me and started asking what I wanted. I wasn't ready to quit my job or move to a cabin in the woods, tempting as that sounded. But I was ready to fight for something better. Less noise, less clutter, less pretending I had it all together when I was falling apart. If any of this hits home, if you've ever looked at your day and wondered where it went, stick with me. I was you, a desk jockey buried in the grind, thinking busyness was the goal. I didn't have a clue how to fix it, but I figured it out one messy, hilarious, humbling step at a time. I'm no guru, I'm just a guy who got fed up and found a way out. And I'm betting you can too. Here's your first challenge, nothing big, just a nudge. Tonight, skip the scroll. Put the phone down, grab a coffee or a beer or whatever gets you through, and sit with yourself for 5 minutes. Ask, am I living or just getting by? Don't overthink it, just listen. That's where it started for me. A quiet moment, a single word, and a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could take my life back. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And it's yours if you want it. Why less became my lifeline. So there I was, Thursday night, slumped on my couch like a deflated balloon, staring at a cold pepperoni pizza and a notebook with one word scrawled in it, enough. I'd hit my breaking point 34 years old, single, and a walking advertisement for burnout. My desk at work looked like a tornado had hit it. My bank account was a sad joke, and my life? A treadmill of chaos I couldn't stop running on. That scribbled word wasn't a plan, it was a plea. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I couldn't keep drowning in the mess I'd made. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be my sanity. The next morning, Friday, I dragged myself back to the office, still reeling from my little existential crisis. The sales update for Jen was due by 5 p.m., and I had maybe 3 half-baked sentences to show for it. My brain felt like oatmeal lumpy, slow, and definitely not appetizing. I sat at my desk, the fluorescent lights buzzing like a judgmental chorus, and tried to focus. But my phone kept chirping Slack pings, email alerts, a text from my buddy Dave about some bar trivia night I'd never make. I'd silence one, and another would pop up, like a digital whack-a-mole I couldn't win. By 11 a.m., I'd added one bullet point to my report and spent 20 minutes scrolling X, laughing at a meme about office life that hit way too close to home. That's when I snapped not a dramatic, movie-style breakdown with yelling and paper throwing, but a quiet, fed-up kind of snap. I grabbed my phone, turned it off fully off, not just silent, and shoved it in my drawer. I closed my inbox, muted Slack, and stared at my laptop like it was a wild animal I had to tame. 1 hour, I muttered to myself. Just 1 hour of actual work. One started typing clumsy at first, fumbling with numbers and half-remembered stats from last quarter. But then, something weird happened. I got into it. The chaos faded. The buzzing lights, The chatter from Tom, 2 cubicles over it, all melted away. By noon, I had a page done. Not a masterpiece, but a page. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control. That hour was my first taste of what I'd later call less. Not less effort, God knows I was still trying, but less noise, less clutter, less of the crap that kept me spinning my wheels. I didn't finish the report that day. Jen got it Monday, and she didn't fire me, so I'll call it a win, but I left the office at 5:30, not 7, and walked home with my head a little clearer. I didn't order takeout. I cooked okay. It was just scrambled eggs, but they were my scrambled eggs. Damn it. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, no TV, no phone, just me, and a plate of slightly overcooked protein, and I thought, maybe this is what living feels like. Over the weekend, I couldn't shake that feeling. I kept replaying that hour, how shutting out the world, even briefly, gave me a sliver of myself back. I wasn't a productivity guru overnight. I still binged half a season of some dumb show on Saturday. But Sunday, I grabbed that notebook again. I flipped past enough and started writing nothing fancy, just a list of what was killing me. Emails, Slack, my phone, meetings about nothing, the $5 slates I didn't need, the gym guilt, the friends I hadn't called. It was a mess, but seeing it on paper made it real. And then I wrote one more thing. I want less of this. That's when it clicked. Less wasn't about giving up, it was about taking back. I'd been drowning in more tasks, more notifications, more pressure, and it was suffocating me. I didn't need more hours or more willpower. I needed less of the junk that was stealing my life. I'd heard about minimalism before those Instagram folks with empty apartments and smug smiles, but I'd always rolled my eyes. I wasn't about to sell my couch or live in a yurt, but this was different. This was minimalism for a guy like me, a frazzled office drone who just wanted to breathe again. Monday morning, I tested it. I got to work, still bleary from a weekend of half-baked epiphanies, and decided to try less again. I didn't check my phone first thing, huge win, considering it was usually glued to my hand before my eyes were fully open. I opened my laptop, picked one task, the sales report, and ignored everything else. No Slack, no email, just me and those damn numbers. I lasted 45 minutes before Tom popped over with a, "Hey, you see the game last night?" I mumbled something vague and shooed him off, not rude, just firm. By lunch, I'd finished half the report. Half. In a morning, I felt like I'd hacked the matrix. That week, I kept experimenting. I'd block an hour here, an hour there, shutting out the noise and focusing on one thing at a time. I wasn't perfect Wednesday. I caved and spent 30 minutes on X, laughing at a thread about bad bosses, but I was on to something. Each time I said no to a distraction, I said yes to myself. I started leaving work closer to 5 than 7, and I'd use that extra time to get this nothing. Not nothing, but real nothing. A walk by the river near my place. No phone, just me and the sound of water. Or I'd sit on my couch with a beer, no TV, just staring at the ceiling like some weirdo philosopher. It was boring as hell at first, but it grew on me. It was mine. Here's the thing, I didn't invent this. I stumbled into it like a drunk guy finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk. But it turns out there's science behind it. Ever hear of the Pareto principle? The 80-20th rule? It says 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. I'd been wasting 80% of my day on junk emails, Slack, pointless chit-chat that gave me 20% of my output. Flip it around. If I focused on the 20% that mattered, I could get 80% of the work done and still have a life. Mind blown. I wasn't a scientist, but I was living proof. That hour on Friday, it was my 20%. The rest was noise. I started seeing less everywhere. Take my desk, God, what a disaster. Piles of paper, sticky notes from last year, a mug with coffee stains older than my lease. I spent an hour that week tossing 80% of it old memos, dead pens, a granola bar one wouldn't touch if you paid me. What was left? A laptop, a notepad, and a pen that worked. I didn't miss the rest. My brain felt lighter, like I'd Marie Kondo'd my own head. Turns out, clutter isn't just stuff, it's mental baggage. A study from Princeton says, "A messy space screws with your focus big time." I didn't need a study to tell me that. I felt it. Then there was money. I'd been bleeding cash on dumb stuff, $5 slots. I wasn't broke, but I was always broke by the 25th, scraping by on ramen and prayers. That weekend, I looked at my bank app, yikes, and saw the damage. 80% of my spending was on crap I didn't need. I didn't ditch coffee, I'm not a monster, but I cut the fancy stuff and brewed my own. Saved me $50 that month. Small? Sure. But it was a start. Less spending, more control. The real kicker was time. I'd always thought I didn't have enough 24 hours wasn't cutting it. But I was wrong. I had the same 24 as everyone else. I was just pissing it away. X ate 2 hours a day too. Meetings about meetings stole another hour. Saying yes to every quick favor from Tom or Jen. Another chunk gone. I wasn't short on time. I was drowning in commitments that didn't matter. Less of that meant more for me, for eggs on Friday, walks by the river, or just sitting still without guilt. Time wasn't the enemy, my choices were. By the end of that week, I was hooked. Less wasn't a gimmick, it was my lifeline. It wasn't about doing nothing, it was about doing what counted. I didn't need a bigger paycheck or a fancier title. I needed fewer chains, fewer pings, fewer piles, fewer promises I couldn't keep. I was still a mess, don't get me wrong. I hadn't turned into some Zen master with a clean inbox and a six-pack, but I'd cracked the door open. I'd tasted what life could be when I stopped letting the chaos win. Looking back, that week was sloppy and awkward, like a kid learning to ride a bike wobbly. Crash-prone, but moving. I didn't have a system yet, that's coming later. Trust me, just a gut feeling that less was more. I'd spent years chasing more tasks, more stuff, more hustle thinking it'd save me. It didn't. It buried me. Less pulled me out one shaky step at a time. It gave me space to think, to feel, to be me, not the office drone, not the phone zombie, but me. If you're like I was buried under emails, guilt, and a to-do list that laughs at you, this is where it starts. You don't need a miracle or a retreat to Bali, though damn, that sounds nice. You need less of what's killing you. I'm no expert, I'm just a guy who got tired of drowning and started swimming. And I'm betting you can too. Here's your challenge. This one's easy, I promise. Grab a scrap of paper, doesn't matter if it's a napkin or a receipt, and write down 3 things that drive you nuts every day. Mine were phone pings, pointless meetings, and latte bills. Don't overthink it, just list them. Then pick just one and ditch it tomorrow. Skip the meeting, mute the app, brew your own coffee. See how it feels. That's it. That's where less began for me. A notebook, a hunch, and a tiny rebellion against the chaos. It's not sexy, but it's yours if you want it. Balancing tools. So, I'd figured out the chaos was killing me, great start, right? But knowing you're a mess is one thing, digging yourself out is another. That's where this part comes in. The messy trial and error toolbox I built to claw my way back to a life that didn't suck. Think of it as my survival kit for the cubicle jungle. Focus tricks, money hacks, emotional band-aids, and habits that stuck. I'm not saying I turned into some productivity ninja overnight half the time. I was still a disaster with a coffee stain on my shirt, but these were the lifelines that worked. If I could stumble through them, a guy who once thought balance was a buzzword for hippies, you can too. Let's get practical. The art of focus, my breakthrough. If you told me a month earlier that focus would be my ticket out of the chaos, I'd have laughed in your face, probably while spilling coffee on my keyboard. Me? Focused? The guy who'd check his phone mid-sentence, lose an hour to X memes, and call it multitasking? Please. I was a walking distraction, a poster child for the attention span of a caffeinated squirrel. But that Friday, the one after my enough moment on the couch, changed everything. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect, but it was the day I learned that shutting out the noise could give me back my life. Let's rewind. I dragged myself to the office, still reeling from Thursday's meltdown. My sales update for Jen was due by 5 p.m., and I had a grand total of 3 sentences, none of them good. My desk was a war zone, post-its curling at the edges, a coffee mug with a ring of sludge, and a laptop that groaned every time I opened a new tab. I sat there, the fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of judgmental bees, and tried to work. But my phone wouldn't shut up. Slack pings from Tom about some client email, a text from Dave about bar trivia, a news alert about a stock I didn't own. It was a digital circus, and I was the reluctant ringmaster, juggling notifications, while my report sat there mocking me. By 11 a.m., I'd added one measly bullet point, sales up 3% in Q3, and spent 20 minutes laughing at a meme about office life that hit way too close to home. A cartoon of a guy drowning in paperwork, while his boss yells, "Work smarter." I was that guy, minus the cartoon charm. My brain was mush, my neck ached, and I was about to wave the white flag when something snapped, not a loud, dramatic snap, but a quiet, fed-up one. I grabbed my phone, powered it off, fully off, not just silent, and shoved it in my desk drawer like it was a live grenade. I closed my inbox, muted Slack, and stared at my screen. 1 hour, I muttered, half to myself, half to the universe. Just 1 damn hour of real work. I started typing clumsy, slow, like a kid learning to ride a bike with no training wheels. I fumbled with the sales data, piecing together numbers I'd half forgotten from last quarter's mess of a meeting. My fingers hesitated. My brain itched to check something, anything, but I pushed through. And then, about 15 minutes in, it happened. I got into it. The buzzing lights faded. Tom's loud laugh. 2 cubicles over dissolved. The chaos, the relentless, soul-crushing chaos melted away. I wasn't flying. I was crawling. But I was moving. By noon, I had a page done, not Shakespeare, but a page of solid, usable stuff. I leaned back, stunned, a tiny grin creeping onto my face. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was driving, not just along for the ride. That hour was my breakthrough, not because I finished the report. Spoiler, I didn't. Jen got it Monday, and she didn't fire me, so we'll call it a win, but because it showed me what focus could do. I'd shut out the noise for 60 measly minutes, and it was like flipping a switch. I wasn't a productivity god. I was still a guy with a coffee stain on his tie, but I'd tasted control. I left the office at 5:30 that day, not 7, and walked home with my head a little clearer. I didn't order takeout. I cooked scrambled eggs. Nothing fancy. Slightly overcooked, but they were mine. I sat at my tiny kitchen table. No TV, no phone. Just me and a plate of food I'd made. And thought, this is what it feels like to be me again. Over the weekend, that hour stuck with me. I kept replaying it, how turning off the world, even for a bit, gave me a piece of myself back. I wasn't ready to quit my job or meditate on a mountaintop, though I'd kill for the Wi-Fi free silence. But Monday, I went back to the office with a plan. I'd try it again. I got in, still groggy from a Sunday of half-baked revelations, and decided to double down. I didn't check my phone first thing huge, considering it was usually my morning lifeline before my eyes even focused. I opened my laptop, picked one task, the sales report, and ignored the rest. No Slack, no email, just me and those numbers. I lasted 45 minutes before Tom popped over with a, "Hey, you see the game last night?" I mumbled, missed it, and waved him off, not rude, just firm. By lunch, I'd finished half the report. Half! In a morning! I felt like I'd hacked the system. That week, I turned it into a game. I'd block an hour here, an hour there, shutting out the noise and zeroing in on one thing at a time. I wasn't flawless Wednesday. I caved and lost 30 minutes to X, giggling at a thread about terrible bosses. Ironic, right? But I was on to something big. Each time I said no to a ping or a quick chat, I said yes to myself. I started leaving work closer to 5 than 7, and I'd use that extra time for get this nothing. Not nothing, but real nothing. A walk by the river near my apartment. No phone, just me and the sound of water lapping the shore. Or I'd sit on my couch with a beer, no TV, staring at the ceiling like some half-baked philosopher. It was boring as hell at first. I fidgeted. I twitched, but it grew on me. It was mine. My time. My space. Here's where it gets nerdy, but stick with me. I'd stumbled into what smart people call deep work a turn. I'd later snag from a book by Cal Newport. It's this idea that real progress comes when you ditch the shallow stuff, emails, chit-chat, multitasking, and dive into one thing with everything you've got. I wasn't reading books back then. I was too busy surviving, but I was living it. Studies say we're interrupted every 3 minutes at work, and it takes 23 minutes to recover 23. No wonder I'd been a zombie. That hour on Friday, it was deep work by accident. I turned off the circus and turned on my brain. And it worked. I didn't stop at 1 hour. I started carving out focus blocks, usually 9 to 10:30 a.m., before the office turned into a zoo. I'd pick one meaty task, say drafting a proposal or sorting data, and lock in. No Wi-Fi unless I needed it. No small talk, just me and the goal. Some days, I'd slip an urgent email from Jen would sneak in, and I'd spend 10 minutes regretting it, but I'd catch myself and reset. I borrowed a trick I'd heard somewhere. 25 minutes of work, 5-minute break, like a mini marathon for my brain. I'd build up to 90 minutes, sipping coffee to stay sharp, and by the end of those sessions, I'd have something real, a finished email campaign, a report that didn't suck. It wasn't magic, it was focus. The payoff was wild. Within a month, I was knocking out projects faster than ever. Jen noticed. She didn't say much, just a nice work here and there, but I saw the eyebrow raise. I noticed, too. I'd wrap up my day with a clear desk and a clearer head, leaving at 5:30 instead of 7. I'd cook pasta with garlic one night, not just eggs or take that river walk, watching the sun dip low, no phone to ruin it. I even hit the gym twice one week, not a hero's journey, just a treadmill slog, but it felt good. Focus didn't just save my workday, it gave me my evenings back. I wasn't a slave to the grind anymore, I was steering it. Let me break it down, because this wasn't luck, it was a system, even if I didn't know it then. Here's what I did, sloppy as it was, kill the noise. I turned off my phone, muted Slack, closed my inbox. If it wasn't life or death, it could wait. I even blocked X during work hours. After that Wednesday slip saved me from myself. Pick one thing, no more juggling. I'd choose one task: sales report, email draft, and stick to it. Multitasking? Science says it cuts productivity by 40%. I felt every percent of that loss before. Set a timer, 25 minutes at first, then 90. I'd work like a madman, then break, stretch, breathe, sip coffee. It was my rhythm. Say no, Tom's quick chats. Nope. Jen's, can you look at this? Not now. I wasn't a jerk, just firm. My time was mine. It's not rocket science, it's survival. I was still a mess half the time, spilled coffee on my notes one day, forgot a meeting. The next, but focus was my lifeline. It cut through the chaos like a knife. I didn't need more hours, I needed fewer distractions. Less noise, more me. The ripple effect was the best part. Focus didn't just stay at work, it leaked into my life. I stopped scrolling X at night. Okay, mostly, and picked up a book instead. Nothing fancy, just some thriller I'd snagged at a used bookstore, but it beat mindless swiping. I'd hit the gym not every day, but enough to feel human again. I even called Dave, my trivia buddy, and we grabbed a beer, no phones, just bad jokes and catching up. Balance wasn't a buzzword anymore. It was real, built one focused hour at a time. I'm no guru. I still screw up. Last week, I lost 20 minutes to a YouTube rabbit hole about cats in costumes. Worth it. But I've learned this. Focus is a muscle. Work it, and it grows. Ignore it, and you're back to square one. For me, a guy who used to live in a haze of half-done tasks, it was the key to breaking free. I didn't turn into Elon Musk. I turned into me again. And that was enough. If you're like I was, drowning in pings, staring at a screen with nothing to show, here's where it starts. I didn't have a manual. I had a hunch and a timer. You can too. Here's your challenge. Tomorrow, pick 1 hour. Turn off your phone fully off, mute the apps. Pick one task. and go. No excuses, no quick checks. Just 60 minutes of you and the work. See how it feels. That's it. That's where focus began for me. A shaky, stubborn hour that cracked the chaos wide open. It's not sexy, but it's yours if you want it. Financial minimalism, breaking the paycheck trap. I used to think I was okay with money, not rich, not broke, just okay. Every month, my paycheck would hit my account, and for about 48 hours, I'd feel like a king of a tiny, overpriced apartment with a leaky faucet, but still a king. Then the bills would roll in, the coffee runs would stack up, and the impulse buys would sneak attack a $20 pizza here, a $30 shirt I'd wear twice there. By the 25th, I'd be scraping by on instant noodles and a prayer, promising myself, next month, I'll budget. Spoiler, I never did. I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck because I had to. I was doing it because I was clueless, and it was killing me. The wake-up call came on a Tuesday, about 2 weeks after my focus breakthrough. I'd been riding high on my newfound ability to shut out the noise at work, knocking out reports, leaving at 5:30, even cooking my own eggs like some domestic hero. But money? That was still a dumpster fire. I'd gone to pay my rent $1,200, do the honest, and my bank app gave me the digital middle finger, insufficient funds. I blinked at the screen, heart sinking, and saw the damage. $12 overdraft fee, balance at negative $3.47. Negative. I'd gotten paid 5 days earlier, and I was already broke. I scrambled, transferred $50 from my sad little savings, thank God for that, and covered it, but the shame stuck. I sat on my couch, staring at that $3.47 like it was a personal insult, and thought, how the hell did I get here? I wasn't a big spender, not the yacht and caviar type. I was a little spender, death by 1,000 cuts. I pulled up my bank app and scrolled through the wreckage. $5 slot Monday, $12 sandwich. Tuesday, $20 stakeout Wednesday, $15 beers with Dave Thursday. Then the weekend, $30 for a shirt I needed, I didn't. $8 for a movie I fell asleep during. $25 for groceries I'd forget to cook. It added up fast. I wasn't broke because I earned too little. I was broke because I spent too much on stuff I didn't even care about. That. $3.47 wasn't just a number. It was a mirror. And I didn't like the guy staring back. That night, I grabbed my notebook, the one with enough still scrawled on page 1, and started tallying. I wrote down every penny I'd spent that month. No mercy. It was ugly. 80% of my cash went to crap lattes, takeout, clothes I'd shove in a drawer. The other 20%? Rent, bills, the stuff that kept me alive. I'd flipped the 80/20ths rule on its head. 80% of my spending gave me 20% of my happiness, if that. I wasn't rich, but I made decent money enough to not be eating ramen on the 25th. Yet there I was, a grown man with a job, overdrafting like a college kid after spring break. Something had to change. I didn't know jack about money budgets, sounded like torture. And investing was for guys in suits, not me in my coffee-stained tie. But I'd learned from focus that less could be more. So I figured, why not try it here? Less spending, more control. I wasn't aiming to be a millionaire, though I wouldn't say no. I just wanted to stop feeling like a financial train wreck. So I started small because if I'd learned anything, it's that big swings crash hard. Step 1, coffee. Those $5 slats were my kryptonite, smooth, frothy, and way too easy to justify. I did the math. $5 a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, $100. $100 on coffee. I could have bought a decent chair for my apartment instead of the wobbly thrift store reject. I sat on. I didn't ditch coffee. I'm not a masochist, but I bought a $20 drip machine and some cheap grounds. First cup was bitter as hell, but it was mine, and it cost me 50 cents. I saved $80 that month. Just like that. Small win, big vibe. Step 2, takeout. I was a delivery app's dream customer: pizza, Thai, burgers, you name it. I'd drop $20 a night because cooking felt like climbing Everest after a 9-to-5 slog. But after my egg cooking triumph, I figured I could do better. I started simple: pasta with garlic, $5 for ingredients, 3 meals. Was it gourmet? Hell no. Did it beat $20 DoorDash? Hell yes. I cut takeout to once a week, Friday treat, not daily crutch, and saved another $60 that month. My kitchen smelled like garlic and victory. Step 3. The random crap. That $30 shirt? Impulse buy from a sale rack, worn twice, now haunting my closet. The $15 beers with Dave? Fun, but I didn't need 3 rounds to laugh at his bad puns. I made a rule: before I bought anything, I'd ask, do I need this, or do I just want it? If it wasn't a need with a capital N, I'd wait 24 hours. Half the time, I forgot about it by morning. That shirt stayed on the rack. Beers dropped to 1 round, and my wallet thanked me. Within a month, I'd clawed back $200, not life-changing, but enough to pay rent without panic. I didn't stop there. I'd heard about this 50-30-20 thing: 50% of your income for needs: rent, bills, 30% for wants: beers, pizza, 20% for savings. I'd been running 80/200ths to 80% needs and wants mashed together, 20% chaos, 0% savings. I flipped it. My take-home was $3,000 a month, decent for a mid-level desk jockey. So, $1,500 for rent and bills, $900 for life coffee, food, fun, $600 to stash. That $600 felt impossible at first. I'd never saved more than $50 without dipping into it. But I started with $100, then $200, building slow. By month 2, I hit $400. My savings went from a pathetic $50 to $800. Not Buffett money, but mine. The real game changer wasn't the numbers, it was the feeling. I'd spent years trapped in a paycheck cycle. Earn, spend, stress, repeat. Every month was a tightrope walk, 1 latte away from disaster. Cutting the excess: less lattes, less takeout, less impulse broke that trap. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't broke either. I had breathing room. I paid rent on the honest, not the twand with a late fee. I bought groceries, real ones, like chicken and veggies, and cooked half-decent meals. I even took Dave out for beers and didn't sweat the tab. Money stopped owning me. I started owning it. Here's the nerdy bit, because I can't help myself. Ever hear of lifestyle inflation? It's when you earn more but spend more, so you're still broke. I was the poster child. Every raise went to fancier coffee or bigger takeout orders. The rich don't do that, guys, like Warren Buffett, live in the same house for decades, driving beat-up cars. I wasn't Buffett. My car is a 2010 Honda, not a Rolls, but I got it. Spend less than you make, and you're free. I didn't need more cash. I needed less waste. Studies say 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, not because they're poor, but because they're me. Pre-$3.47 disaster. I wasn't alone. I was just waking up. Focus helped here too. I'd block an hour a week Sunday nights, beer in hand, to check my spending. I'd open my bank app, tally the damage, and plan the next week: $50 for groceries, $20 for fun, $100 to savings. No rocket science, just attention. It was like deep work for my wallet. Cut the noise, zero in, get it done. I'd slip $15 in a dumb gadget once, but I'd catch it and adjust. That hour kept me honest. The payoff wasn't just cash, it was peace. Work stress didn't hit as hard when I knew my rent was covered. I'd leave the office at 5:30, not 7, because I wasn't scrambling to earn more for dumb stuff. I'd walk by the river, cook a meal, call Dave life stuff, not survival stuff. Financial minimalism wasn't about deprivation. It was about freedom. Less spending, more living. I'm no finance bro. I still love a good pizza night, and my savings won't buy me a yacht yet. But I broke the trap. I went from $3.47 to $800 in the bank. Not a fortune, but a foundation. If I, a guy who once thought budget was a four-letter word, could do it, you can too. It's not about being cheap, it's about being in charge. Here's my sloppy system, if you want it. Cut the bleeders, coffee, takeout, impulse, buys, find your $5 slot, and kill it. Need versus want. Before you spend, wait 24 hours. If you forget it, you didn't need it. 50-30-20. Try it, start small, even 60-30-10, and build. Stash something, anything. Check in. 1 hour a week. Look at your money. Face it. Fix it. Your challenge this week: skip one thing you always buy, coffee, lunch, whatever, and see where that $5 or $20 goes instead. Cook once, save once, feel it. That's it. That's where I started overdraft shame, a notebook, and a cheap coffee pot. It's not glamorous, but it's freedom. Grab it. Mastering emotions. Finding calm in the storm. I've never been good with feelings, mine or anyone else's. Growing up, my solution to a bad day was to shove it down, eat a sandwich, and move on. Worked fine until I hit my 30s, and the corporate grind turned my emotions into a roller coaster. I couldn't get off. 1 minute, I'd be fine chugging coffee, typing away, then bam, a snarky email from Jen or a missed deadline would send me spiraling. I'd snap at Tom over nothing, stew in my cubicle like a grumpy cat, or panic, buy a $20 pizza to feel better. I wasn't just stressed, I was a mess, and my emotions were running the show. That is, until I figured out how to tame them, one shaky breath at a time. The breaking point came about a month after my money wake-up call. I'd been riding a high, focusing better, saving a few bucks, feeling like I might actually have my shit together. Then Jen dropped a bomb. It was a Wednesday, gray and dreary, and I was halfway through a report when she swung by my desk, sneakers squeaking like a horror movie sound effect. "Hey," she said, casual as ever, "clients coming in tomorrow. Can you present Q3 sales? Oh, and make it snappy, they're short on time." My stomach dropped. Tomorrow? I'd barely finished the report, let alone turned it into a snappy PowerPoint. I nodded, because, "What else do you say?" And she walked off, leaving me staring at my screen like it just insulted my mom. Panic hit hard, my chest tightened, my palms sweated, and my brain went full doomsday mode. I'm screwed. They'll hate it. Jen will fire me. I'll be that guy living in his Honda. I tried to work, but my fingers froze. Every typo felt like a personal failure. Every chart a disaster. Then Tom popped over, good old Tom, oblivious as ever with a "You good, man?" I snapped. "Yeah, fine, just busy," sharper than I meant. He backed off, eyebrows up, and I felt like a jerk. By lunch, I was a ball of nerves, scarfing a $12 sandwich I didn't taste, wondering how I'd gone from kinda okay to total train wreck in 3 hours. That afternoon, I bombed. Not the presentation that was tomorrow, but my whole vibe. I couldn't focus. My report looked like a toddler wrote it. I'd type, delete, my heart racing like I'd chugged 6 coffees. It was only 2, I swear. I kept replaying Jen's snappy line, imagining the client a suit with a scowl tearing me apart. I was mad at her for springing this, at myself for sucking, at Tom for existing. By 4 p.m., I was done. I shut my laptop, grabbed my jacket, and bailed early, first time ever, muttering some excuse about a headache. I walked home, rain soaking my cheap sneakers, feeling like the human equivalent of a wet sock. That night, I didn't cook or walk by the river. I ordered pizza, $20, because of course, and sat on my couch, staring at the box like it'd fix me. It didn't. My brain wouldn't shut up. "You're a fraud. You can't handle this. Tomorrow's gonna suck." I was spiraling, and I hated it. I'd been doing better, focus, money, little wins, and one curveball turned me into a jittery mess. That's when I realized I could tame my desk and my wallet, but my emotions? They were a wild animal, and I had no leash. I didn't sleep much. That night, too busy, rehearsing my flop of a presentation in my head. But around 2 a.m., pizza gone cold, I grabbed my notebook. I'd been scribbling wins in there focus hours. Saved bucks, so I figured, why not this? I wrote, freaking out. Client tomorrow. Feel like crap. Not poetry, but honest. Then I added, why? I sat there, pen hovering, and started digging. Why was I losing it? Jen's ask wasn't crazy. I'd done presentations before. The client wasn't Satan, probably. I wasn't dumb. So why the meltdown? It hit me. I wasn't mad or scared of them. I was mad at me. I'd let one hiccup derail everything, and my emotions were driving. That scribble was my lifeline. I didn't know it then, but I'd stumbled into something, call it mindfulness. Call it not being a hot mess where you look at your feelings instead of letting them run you. I'd heard about this stuff podcasts I'd half listened to, articles I'd skimmed, but it always sounded like hippie nonsense, breathe deep, find your zen. I wasn't about to light incense in my apartment. The landlord would have evicted me, but I was desperate. So I tried it right there, 2 a.m., pizza grease on my fingers. I closed my eyes, took a breath slow, shaky, and asked, what's real here? Real, I had a report. Real, I could talk. Not real, I'd be fired and homeless by Friday. It was basic, but it worked. My chest loosened, just a bit. The next day, I went in early red-eyed, coffee in hand, and prepped. I didn't nail the presentation. I fumbled a slide, stuttered once, but the client nodded. Jen said, good job, and I didn't die. I left at 5:30, walked home, and cooked pasta not out of triumph, but because I wasn't a wreck. That night, I scribbled again, survived, breathing helped. It wasn't a win, it was a start. I didn't turn into Buddha overnight. I'm still a sarcastic goof half the time, but I leaned into this. Work was a pressure cooker, deadlines, Jen's last-minute bombs, Tom's chatter. My old fix was to snap or eat my feelings, but that just dug the hole deeper. So I built a sloppy system, trial and error style, to keep my head above water. First trick, when I felt the storm chest tight, temper flaring, I'd pause. 10 seconds, deep breaths, no kidding myself it was fine. I'd name it mad, scared, stressed. Sounds dumb, but naming it shrunk it, like calling a monster Bob instead of letting it haunt you. Second trick, I'd question it. Why am I freaking out? Is this real? 9 times out of 10, it wasn't Jen wasn't out to get me. The client wouldn't sue me. Tom wasn't Satan. It was my brain on overdrive, fear jacking up the volume. Studies say we fear loss twice as much as we crave gain psychology's way of saying, I'm wired to panic. Knowing that helped. I'd wait 24 hours if it was big, like a rash email I'd regret and act when I was calm. Saved me from a lot of, sorry, I didn't mean that moments. Third trick, I built a reset. After a storm, say, a brutal meeting, I'd step away. 5 minutes, bathroom stall or river walk, no phone. I'd breathe, stretch, let it go. Once, I hid in the break room, sipping water like a secret agent, dodging Tom's "you okay?" It wasn't yoga, but it was mine. Science backs this: 2 stress spikes, cortisol, fries your brain, a break cuts it off. I didn't need a lab, I felt it. The payoff was quiet, but huge. A month later, Jen hit me with another snappy-ass client call next day. Old me would have spiraled pizza, panic, the works. New me? I paused, breathed, named it, stressed. I questioned, real? Yes, but doable, I'd done it before. I prepped, presented, survived. Left at 5:30, cooked chicken, burned it, but still, no meltdown. Emotions didn't own me, I owned them. It leaked into life too. I'd call Dave, not snap at him. I'd walk by the river, not stew over work. I even slept 6 hours, not 3, because my brain wasn't a war zone. Balance wasn't just time or money, it was calm. I didn't need to yell or eat my weight in pepperoni to cope. I had tools. I'm no Zen master. Last week, I flipped out over a printer jam, cursed it like it owed me money. But I caught it, breathed, moved on. Emotions are a storm. You don't stop them, but you can steer. For me, a guy who used to be a pizza-fueled wreck. It was freedom. Here's my messy kit. Pause. 10 breaths when you're losing it. Name the feeling. Shrink it. Question, why? Is it real? Wait, if it's big, 24 hours saves regrets. Reset. 5 minutes. No phone bathroom. Walk. Whatever works. Your challenge, next time you're pissed boss, coworker, life, pause. 10 breaths. Name it. Let it sit. See if it's still big after. That's it. That's where I started. 2 a.m., pizza grease, and a shaky breath. It's not pretty, but it's calm. Grab it. Habits for harmony, small wins, big life. I used to think habits were for other people you know, the type who wake up at 5 a.m., jog in matching workout gear, and drink kale smoothies without gagging. Me? I was the guy who'd hit snooze until my arm went numb, stumble into the office with a $5 slot I'd spill half of, and call it a morning routine. My life ran on autopilot, chaotic autopilot, where I'd bounce from work to couch to bed without a shred of intention. I'd start big plans, gym memberships, novel drafts, only to ditch them by week 2, buried under excuses and pepperoni pizza boxes. That is, until I figured out that small habits, not grand resolutions, were the glue that held my new balance together. It started about 6 weeks after my emotional meltdown with the client presentation. I'd clawed back some control focus blocks at work, a few bucks in the bank, breathing through Jen's curveballs, but it felt shaky, like a Jenga tower one nudge from collapse. I'd have good days leaving at 5:30, cooking pasta, walking by the river, then crash into old patterns, scrolling X till midnight, ordering $20 stakeout because I was too tired to cook. I wasn't backsliding completely, but I wasn't solid either. I needed something to lock it in, to make less chaos. More life stick, not just a fluke, but a way of being. The spark came on a random Sunday. I'd slept till noon. Classic me dragged myself to the couch and flipped on the TV, ready for a Netflix coma. But my notebook sat there on the coffee table, taunting me with its scribbles. Enough. Focus. Saved $80. Survived. I'd been tracking wins, sloppy as they were, and it hit me. Those weren't accidents. Shutting off my phone for an hour, brewing my own coffee, breathing through a freakout. They were choices, tiny ones, that added up. What if I made them automatic? Not big, heroic stuff, writing a novel in a month, but small, dumb stuff I could actually do. I wasn't ready for kale smoothies, but I could handle eggs. So I started ridiculously small, because I knew myself too well. Step 1, coffee. I'd already cut the $5 slots, but my drip machine was gathering dust half the time. I'd still grab a $3 cup from the deli when I overslept. I made a rule: every morning, before my phone, I'd brew coffee. 5 minutes, no excuses. First day, I burned my tongue on the cheap grounds, tasted like regret, but I did it. Second day, same. By day 5, I didn't think about it. I just shuffled to the kitchen, half asleep, and hit the button. Saved me $15 that week. Sure, but more than that, it was a win. A tiny, bitter win that said, I'm in charge here. Step 2, the gym. My $50 membership was a running joke. I'd gone twice in 6 months, both times quitting after 10 minutes on the treadmill because cardio's hard. I wasn't about to become a fitness bro, but I hated feeling like a slug. So I shrank it, 5 minutes, 3 days a week. Not 30, not an hour 5. I'd walk in, jog okay, shuffle at a pace a turtle could beat, then leave. First time, I felt stupid. 5 minutes. Really, but I did it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 minutes each. Week 2, I bumped it to 7, still laughable, but mine. By month's end, I was at 15, sweating a little, not hating it. I didn't get ripped, but I didn't feel like a couch potato either. Small win, big shift. Step 3, reading. I'd always wanted to be that guy, the one who reads books. Not just X threads, but my attention span was shot. I'd start a novel, get 10 pages in, and ditch it for TV. So I cut it down, 5 pages a night, no pressure. I grabbed a beat-up thriller from a thrift store, $2, dog-eared, and set a timer. First night, I read 6 Overachiever and liked it. Second night, 5. By week 3, I was at 10 no timer, just me and the story. I finished that book in a month, first one in years, and started another. It wasn't War and Peace, but it beat scrolling till my eyes burned. Here's the secret. I didn't rely on willpower. That tank was empty by noon most days. I used triggers, like a Pavlov's dog thing. Coffee, tied it to waking up alarm off, brew on. Gym, after work, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, bag packed the night before. Reading, post-dinner, TV off, book on the table. I kept it stupid simple, under 2 minutes to start. Because if it took more, I'd bail. Science backs this. James Clear, some habit guru I'd hear about later, says if it's easy, you stick. 5 minutes wasn't a workout. It was a promise I could keep. The glue was rewards, dumb ones, but they worked. Coffee done? Sip it slow. Feel smug. Gym over? Cheap protein bar, $1. Chocolate flavor, my treat. Reading finished? 5 minutes of guilt-free memes. Not doom scrolling. It's cheesy, but it locked it in. Habits aren't grit, they're hacks. I'd repeat 21 days, they say, for a groove, 90 for a lifestyle. I didn't count, but by month 2, I didn't need to. Coffee was ritual. Gym was reflex. Reading was joy. The pitfalls? Oh, I hit them. Overslept once. Skipped coffee, bought a $3 cup. Felt like a traitor. Missed the gym when Tom roped me into beers, woke up sluggish. Hated it. Quit reading mid-book once, TV 1, but never twice in a row. That was my rule. Don't miss twice. 1 slips human, 2's a slide. I'd reset, shrug, try again. No self-flagellation, just back on the horse, or treadmill, or whatever. The payoff was sneaky. Work got smoother, coffee habit fueled my focus blocks. Gym cleared my head for Jen's bombs. I'd leave at 5:30, not 7, with energy to cook chicken now. Not just eggs or read by the river. Book in hand, no phone. Money stayed in my pocket, $50 membership paid off, takeout dropped. Life felt, dare I say it, harmonious. Not perfect, not kale smoothie harmonious, but mine. Small wins stacked into a big life. Mornings I owned, evenings I enjoyed, days that didn't crush me. I'm no habit robot. Last week, I slept through my alarm, skipped the gym, and binged X till 1 a.m. Old me crept in. But I brewed coffee next day, jogged 5 minutes, read 5 pages. Habits didn't fix me, they held me. For a guy who used to run on chaos, they were harmony, quiet, steady, real. Here's my sloppy starter kit. Shrink it. 5 minutes. 1 task, coffee, walk, read. Tiny wins stick. Trigger it. Tie it to something, wake up, post-work, dinner. No thinking, just doing. Reward. It, cheap thrill snack. Meme, pat on the back. Lock it in. Don't miss twice. Slip once. Find twice. You're toast. Reset fast. Your challenge, pick one thing, 5 minutes. Tomorrow. Brew coffee, walk, read something small, tie it to a trigger, reward it, do it. That's it. That's where I started, a Sunday hunch. A 5-minute jog, a life that grew. It's not flashy, but it's yours. Stack it. I'd hacked my way through the chaos, focus, money, emotions, habits, and built something that looked like balance. But it wasn't enough to just survive the cubicle grind. I wanted to live beyond it, to stop defining myself by a 9 to 5 that didn't give a damn about me. This part's the messy, soul-searching bit, where I rewired my head, cut the crap from my relationships, and figured out what enough really meant. It's not preachy, I'm still a goof who spills coffee, but it's real. If I could rethink my life, a guy who once thought purpose was a corporate buzzword, so can you. Let's dig in. Rewiring my mind beyond the 9 to 5. I used to think my job was my life, not in some noble, I'm changing the world way, but in a sad, this is all I've got way. I'd wake up, slug through traffic, sit under flickering lights for 8 hours, and drag myself home. only to do it again. My identity was tied to a desk, a paycheck, and Jen's occasional nice work, a hamster on a wheel with better Wi-Fi. I'd built focus blocks, saved a few bucks, tamed my meltdowns, and stacked habits, but deep down, I still felt stuck. It wasn't until a rainy Saturday one that shook me to my core that I realized I had to rethink everything, not just survive it. It was about 2 months after my habit groove kicked in. I'd been jogging my pitiful 15 minutes, brewing coffee like a pro, and reading thrillers instead of doom-scrolling X small wins that felt big. But that Saturday, I hit a wall, not a metaphorical one, a real one. I'd planned a me day, no work, no Jen, just me and a rare sunny forecast that turned into a downpour by 10 a.m. I was pissed, curled up on my couch, rain hammering the window, a half-eaten bowl of cereal soggy on the table. I'd wanted to walk by the river, maybe grab a beer with Dave, but the sky said nope, and I took it personally. I flipped on the TV some mindless reality show about people yelling over a burnt cake and felt a pit in my stomach grow. This is it? I thought. This is my big day off? I grabbed my notebook, my battered sidekick by now, and flipped through it. Enough. Focus. $800 saved. Survived client. Coffee habit. Wins, sure, but they felt small against the gray slog outside. I'd cut the chaos, but for what? To sit here, 34 single, watching rain and bad TV? I tossed the notebook aside, stood up, and paced my tiny apartment past the laundry pile. I'd ignored the thrift store lamp with a busted shade, the fridge humming like it was judging me. I stopped at the window, rain streaking the glass, and caught my reflection, hunched shoulders, tired eyes, a guy who'd fixed his days but not his head. That's when it hit me, raw and unfiltered. I'm still living for the job, not me. The truth stung. I'd spent years, letting the 9 to 5 define me. Not Jen, not the clients, but me. I'd handed it the reins. Every choice focus blocks, cheap coffee was about surviving work, not building a life. I'd bragged about leaving at 5:30, but what for? To crash on this couch, eat cereal, and wait for Monday? My wins were real, but they were bandages on a bigger wound. I didn't know who I was outside that cubicle. I'd cut the noise, but I hadn't filled the quiet with anything that mattered. And that Saturday, rain pounding like a drumbeat, I felt it, the hollow ache of a life half-lived. I didn't have a plan, I'm not that guy, but I knew I couldn't sit there. So I grabbed my beat-up umbrella, yanked on my soggy sneakers, and walked out into the storm. No river today, the path was a muddy mess, but I headed to the deli, 3 blocks down, rain soaking my jeans, wind snatching at my umbrella, until it flipped inside out. I didn't care. I pushed through the door, dripping like a drowned rat, and ordered a $3 coffee black, no frills, my kind of brew. The cashier, a kid with a nose ring, smirked at my state. "Rough day?" he asked. "Rough life," I shot back, half laughing, and took my cup to a corner table by the window. I sat there, steam curling from the coffee, rain battering the glass, and watched the world blur by cars splashing through puddles. A woman wrestling a stroller under an awning, an old guy with a dog that looked as miserable as I felt. My notebook was back home, but my head was scribbling. What do I want? Not survive Jen's next ask or save another $100? What did I want? I sipped the coffee hot, bitter, grounding, and let the question sit. No phone to distract me, no TV to numb me. Just me and the rain, and a cheap cup I'd made myself earn. The answer didn't come in a flash, no angelic choir or movie montage. But a memory did. I was 22, fresh out of college, crashing on a buddy's couch in a nowhere town, broke but alive. We'd drive his beat-up truck to this lake an hour out. No plan, just a cooler of cheap beer and a radio that only got static. One night, we sat on the hood, stars punching through the dark, and I'd laughed real, gut-deep laughter over some dumb story he told about a raccoon in a trash can. I hadn't thought about that in years, but there it was. A moment when I wasn't a job, a paycheck, a to-do list, just me, free, happy. That deli table, rain drumming, brought it back. I didn't want a corner office or a fancier car. I wanted that. Not the lake, not the truck, but the feeling, alive, not owned. I'd spent a decade chasing success, more hours, more stuff thinking it'd get me there. It didn't. It got me a cubicle and a couch and a life I didn't recognize. I'd cut the chaos phone pings, latte bills, but I'd stopped there, patching the leaks without rebuilding the house. I needed more, not more stuff, but more me. So I started rewiring, sloppy and slow. First, I quit the script, the one that said, my job was my worth. Jen wasn't my judge, my paycheck wasn't my soul. I still worked hard, focus block stayed. Reports got done, but I stopped living for nice work. One Monday, Jen asked for a last-minute slide deck. Old me would have panicked, stayed till 7 pizzaed my stress. New me? I breathed, said, I'll have it by noon tomorrow, and left at 5:30. She didn't blink. I'd set the boundary, and it held. Work became a thing I did, not who I was. Next, I dug into the quiet, those hours I'd clawed back. No more serial and TV autopilot. I'd walk by the river, rain or shine, notebook in my pocket, scribbling dumb ideas, learn guitar, visit that lake. One night, I called Dave not for beers, just to talk. He'd landed a new gig, sounded happy, and I really listened, laughing at his terrible puns like old times. Another night, I hauled my thrift store lamp to the table, fixed the shade with duct tape ugly, but it worked, and read my thriller under it, grinning at my handyman skills. Small stuff, but mine, not the office's, not X's, mine. The big shift was saying no, not just to Jen, but to the noise in my head. I'd always thought I had to hustle, had to climb, had to keep up. With who? The suits on X? The ghosts of my 20s? I wrote in my notebook, enough is enough, not survival enough, thriving enough. I didn't need more hours or more cash. I needed less pressure, less should. I started asking, does this matter to me? If not, it was gone. Extra shifts, guilt over skipped networking drinks, the dream of a novel I didn't want to write anymore. I let it go, and the space felt like air. The science nerd in me loves this bit. Psychologists call it self-determination. You thrive when you choose your path, not when you're dragged. I wasn't dragged anymore. I'd jog my 15 minutes not for abs, for me. I'd save $400 not for a yacht, for freedom. I'd read, not to impress, to escape. Work was a tool, not a master. Studies say 70% of us tie self-worth to jobs. 70%. I'd been that guy, but I quit the club. The payoff was raw. One Friday, I ditched the office at 5, drove my Honda an hour out, not to that lake, but close a state park I'd Googled on a whim. Rain had stopped, sky was pink and gold, and I sat on a rickety picnic table. No phone, just me and the wind rustling the trees. I laughed quiet, real, because I could. No deadline loomed, no Jen loomed, just me, alive, like that 22-year-old on the truck hood. I wasn't rich or famous. I was free. Beyond the 9 to 5, I found me. I still screw up. Last week, I stewed over a snarky email, worked late, forgot the river. But I reset always. Rewiring isn't a finish line, it's a road. For a guy who once thought life was a cubicle, it's everything. Here's my messy map. Quit the script. Job's a job, not your soul. Set a boundary. Test it. Fill the quiet. Pick one thing, walk. Call. Fix a lamp, yours, not works. Ask why. Does it matter to you? If not, drop it, no guilt. Your challenge this weekend: ditch one, should extra work, a scroll session, and do one thing for you. Walk, laugh, sit still 5 minutes, no rules. That's it. That's where I started. A rainy deli, a $3 coffee, a mind that woke up. It's not epic, but it's yours. Take it. Relationships that matter, cutting the noise. I've never been a social butterfly, more like a moth, flapping toward the nearest light, usually a beer or a bad joke. For years, my relationships were a mixed bag, A few close buddies like Dave, a handful of work pals like Tom, and a rotating cast of acquaintances I'd see at bars or half-hearted game nights. I'd say yes to everything: drinks after work, weekend hangouts, even a coworker's karaoke disaster. I still can't unhear, because I thought that's what you do. Keep the crowd, keep the noise, keep the friends. But about 3 months into my less is more overhaul, I realized that crowd was drowning me, and I had to cut the static to hear the voices that actually mattered. It started with a Friday. I'll never forget one that felt like a sitcom gone wrong. I'd been riding my new groove, focus blocks at work, $800 in the bank, jogs by the river, a mind that wasn't tethered to Jen's whims. I was feeling, dare I say it, pretty damn good. So when Tom pinged me on Slack at 4 p.m., drinks tonight, cruise in, I said yes without thinking. Old habit, drinks with the team meant I was one of the guys, not the loner who bailed for a book and a couch. I clocked out at 5:30, met them at O'Malley's, a dive bar with sticky floors and $6 beers, and braced myself for the usual chaos. The crew was loud: Tom, Sarah from marketing, Mike from it, a couple others I barely knew. They were already 2 rounds in, shouting over each other about a client screw-up I'd missed and a fantasy football league I didn't play. I grabbed a beer, squeezed into a booth, and tried to keep up nodding, laughing, tossing in a yeah, brutal when it fit. But 20 minutes in, I felt it, that pit in my stomach, the same one from that rainy Saturday. I wasn't here, I was performing. Tom slapped my shoulder. "You're quiet tonight, man, what's up?" I mumbled, "Just tired," and sipped my beer, but it tasted flat. Their noise was suffocating me. By 7 p.m., I'd had enough. Sarah was belting a story about her cat, 3rd time that month. Mike was drunk dialing his ex, and Tom was ordering shots I didn't want. I faked a yawn, said, "Gotta bounce, early start tomorrow," and slipped out. "They're lame," chants fading behind me. I walked home, air crisp with fall, streetlights buzzing, and felt, get this, relief. Not guilt, not FOMO, just a quiet, glorious relief. I got to my apartment, kicked off my sneakers, and sat on my couch, no TV, no beer, just me and the hum of the fridge. That's when it hit. I didn't need that. Not the bar, not the crew, not the noise pretending to be connection. I grabbed my notebook, my trusty, beat-up confessional, and scribbled, "Drinks sucked. Felt like work." Then I paused, pen hovering, and wrote the real kicker. Why am I still doing this? I'd cut the clutter from my desk, my wallet, my head. Why not my relationships? I'd spent years collecting people like trading cards. Tom for laughs, Sarah for gossip, randoms for filler, thinking more was better. But that night, walking away from O'Malley's, I saw it. More was chaos. I didn't need a crowd. I needed a crew, small, real, mine. The next morning, Saturday, I woke up early, 8 a.m. A miracle for me, and brewed my coffee, the drip machine gurgling like an old friend. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, rain tapping the window again seriously. What's with the rain? And thought about Dave. Not Tom, not Sarah, Dave. My buddy from college, the one who'd drive us to that lake, who'd stuck around through my ghosting phase, who didn't care if I bailed on trivia for a quiet night. I hadn't called him in weeks, not because I didn't want to, but because I'd been too busy playing one of the guys with people I barely liked. I grabbed my phone, dialed, and he picked up on the second ring. "Hey, stranger," he said, voice warm, no judgment. "Thought you'd moved to Mars." I laughed real, not forced, and said, "Nah, just lost in the grind. You free today?" He was new job, kept him local, and we met at a diner 2 towns over, a greasy spoon with chipped mugs and $4 pancakes. We sat in a booth by the window, rain streaking the glass, and talked not about work, not about clients, just life. His new gig fixing cars, my burned chicken attempts, that raccoon story from the lake days that still cracked us up. I didn't check my phone once. 2 hours flew. And when I hugged him goodbye, awkward, manly hug, I felt full. Not beer full, soul full. That diner day flipped a switch. I didn't need 20 friends or a packed calendar. I needed a handful who got me. So I started cutting the noise, ruthless but quiet. Tom? Good guy, but exhausting, always on, always loud. I didn't ghost him, I just dialed back. Can't tonight, man, next time, I'd say. And mean, maybe never. Sarah? Fun at work. But her cat sagas and drama weren't my jam. I'd nod in the break room, skip the drinks. The randoms, bar buddies, old coworkers, I let them fade, no texts, no guilt. My phone got quieter, fewer pings, fewer where you at, and I didn't miss them. I poured that energy into what mattered. Dave became my anchor, weekly calls, diner runs, a lake trip we planned for spring. My sister, Liz, too, she'd been off my radar, busy with her kids in Ohio. I called her one Sunday, rain again, drumming outside, and she answered mid-yell at her toddler. Hey, loser, she said, laughing. You alive? We talked for an hour, her messy mom life, my messy single life, and I mailed her kids a $10 toy truck the next week. Just because. My circle shrank. Dave, Liz, a couple others, but it deepened. No small talk, no noise, just real. The hard part was work. Tom and the crew were baked into my 9 to 5. I didn't ditch them cold. I still ate lunch in the break room, swapped dumb jokes, but I stopped pretending they were family. One Tuesday, Tom pushed. Drinks, man. Come on, you're turning into a hermit. I grinned, said, nah, just picky, and left at 5:30 for a river walk. He rolled his eyes, but I didn't care. I wasn't a hermit. I was free. Free to choose, not chase. Science nerd moment. Studies say we can only handle about 5 close ties, Dunbar's number or something. The rest? Noise. I'd been hauling 20, 30 connections, half of them shallow, and it drained me. Cutting them wasn't mean, it was mercy. For me and them. Less drama, less sure, I'll come, more peace. I didn't need a crowd to feel full. I needed a crew to feel alive. The payoff was electric. One Friday, Dave and I hit O'Malley's, just us. No chaos. 2 beers, a corner booth, stories about his grease-stained hands, and my duct-taped lamp. We laughed till my sides hurt, and I walked home under a clear sky. No pit in my stomach, just a glow. Another night, Liz FaceTimed me, her kid waved that truck. Grinning, and I slept better than I had in months. My days lightened. Work was work, not a social circus, and my nights were mine, not borrowed. I still slipped last week. I said yes to Tom's quick beer and regretted it instantly. But I reset, always. Relationships aren't about more, they're about meaning. For a guy who once thought friends meant a full bar tab, it's clarity, sharp, quiet, real. Here's my cut, the crap kit, pick your 5, who gets you. Keep them close, call, meet, laugh. Fade the rest, no drama, say next time. Mean maybe never. Let it go. Invest deep time, not texts, real talks, real moments, no noise. Your challenge this week: skip 1 hangout, drinks, chat, whatever, and call 1 person who matters. 5 minutes, no script, just you. That's it. That's where I started. A loud bar, a quiet walk, a diner pancake. It's not loud, but it's yours. Choose it. The long game, living light, living full. I'd love to tell you that once I cut the chaos, mastered focus, tamed my wallet, calmed my storms, built habits, and picked my people, I turned into some enlightened sage, sipping herbal tea on a mountaintop. Nope, I'm still me, 34, a little scruffy, still spilling coffee on my thrift store shirts. But about 4 months into this less is more life, I realized something big. This wasn't a quick fix or a phase, it was a long game. Living light wasn't about stripping everything away. It was about keeping what fueled me and letting it grow, slow and steady, into a life that felt full, not frantic. And it started with a Sunday drive that almost didn't happen. It was early spring. Rain finally gave way to a weak sun. trees budding like they weren't sure it'd last. I'd been solid, jogging 15 minutes, brewing my $0.50 coffee, reading by the river, calling Dave and Liz instead of drowning in bar noise. My bank account sat at $1,200. Not a fortune, but a cushion, and I left work at 5:30 most days, not 7. I was proud, but restless. The wins were real, but they felt like pieces, not a picture. I'd cut the fat distractions, debt, drama, but hadn't answered the big question, what's this all for? That Sunday, I found out. I woke up late 9:30, no alarm, a luxury, and brewed my coffee. The drip machines gurgle a familiar hymn. I'd planned to laze cereal, couch, maybe a thriller, but my Honda keys sat on the counter, glinting in a stray sunbeam, whispering, drive. I hadn't taken that lake trip with Dave yet. Work, weather, excuses. But I thought of that picnic table from a month back, the pink gold sky, the wind in the trees. I grabbed my jacket, faded denim, a $5 steal, tossed my notebook in the passenger seat, and hit the road. No plan, just a hunch. An hour out, I found it not the lake from my 20s, but close. A quiet reservoir, water shimmering, pines ringing the shore like silent guards. I parked by a gravel lot, engine ticking as it cooled, and stepped out. The air smelled sharp, wet earth, pine needles. A hint of fish and a breeze tugged at my hair. I walked to the water's edge, sneakers crunching on stones, and sat on a splintered bench, notebook unopened beside me. No phone left it in the car, a small rebellion, no Jen, no Tom, just me and the ripple of waves lapping the shore. I breathed deep, slow, and felt something settle, a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. That's when it clicked. This was it. Not the reservoir, not the bench, but this living light enough to chase a moment, full enough to feel it. Back home, I'd built a life that worked focus, got me through work. Money stopped choking me. Calm kept me sane. Habits held me steady. Dave and Liz kept me grounded. But the long game wasn't just holding the line. It was growing it, weaving those wins into something lasting. So I doubled down, not with big swings, but with quiet bets on me. First, I locked in the basics. Coffee stayed 5 minutes every morning, a ritual that said, I start my day, not the world. Jogging bumped to 20 minutes, still slow, still mine, because my lungs liked it, not my ego. Reading stretched to 15 pages thrillers gave way to a beat-up Steinbeck. I found for $3 words that hit harder than X memes. Work got lighter too, not the hours, the load. I'd mastered no with Jen tomorrow, not tonight, and kept my focus blocks sacred, but I stopped caring about the game. A promotion dangled more money, more meetings, and I let it pass. Not now, I told Jen, grinning at her raised eyebrow. I didn't need the title. I had $1,200 Sanda Honda that ran. I clocked out at 5:30, drove to that reservoir again the next weekend solo. Thermos of coffee in hand, and watched a heron stab the water for fish, my notebook filling with scribbles. This is enough. Money stayed simple, not cheap, just smart. I'd hit 50, 30, 20, $1,500 bills, $900 life, $600 saved and stuck to it. No lifestyle creep. A coworker bragged about his new SUV $40. Shiny as hell, and I nodded, sipped my $0.50 brew, and thought, my Honda's paid off. I splurged once $50 guitar from a pawn shop, strings rusty but tunable, and spent nights fumbling chords, laughing at my clumsy fingers. Savings grew $1,800 by month 5, because I didn't need more stuff. I needed more space. Relationships deepened, not widened. Dave and I hit that lake, the lake 6 months in. Spring sun burned hot. His new truck smelled of oil, and we sat on the tailgate, beers cold, radio static crackling. He told me about a girl he'd met, mechanic, tough as nails, and I told him about the guitar, the reservoir, the quiet. We laughed deep, real over that raccoon story, and I felt 22 again, but wiser. Liz sent me a video, her kids smashing that toy truck into a wall, cackling, and I mailed another $10 spaceship this time. My circle stayed small. Dave, Liz, a river bench, but it was steel, not sand. The hard part was the drift old me creeping back. One Tuesday, Jen piled on 3 deadlines, and I worked till 7 pizza box mocking me at home. Another night, I scrolled X till 1 a.m., eyes red, brain fried. I'd slip coffee skipped, jog missed, guitar dusty but never long. My rule held, don't miss twice. I'd reset brew the next morning, lace up the sneakers, strum a chord and keep going. Living light wasn't perfection, it was persistence. A long game I played for me. The science geek in me loves this. Studies say happiness plateaus at $75 a year more doesn't mean better. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be $36. A Honda and a $50 guitar beat $75 and a Cubicle cage. Minimalism wasn't empty, it was full, just not with junk. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You chase more. Adapt. Chase again. I stopped chasing. I settled into enough, and it grew. The payoff was a life I recognized. One Saturday, I drove to the reservoir guitar in the back, coffee in a thermos, Steinbeck tucked under my arm. I sat by the water, strummed a shaky House of the Rising Sun, and read about dust and dreams. Sun dipping low. No rush, no noise, just me. Light as the breeze, full as the pines. Work was Monday, Jen was Jen, but they didn't own me. I did. 6 months ago, I'd been a hamster. Now, I was a guy with a beat-up guitar and a horizon. I still mess up last week. I burned a pot of pasta, cursed like a sailor, and skipped the jog. But I brewed coffee next day, drove to the water, reset. The long game isn't a sprint, it's a walk slow. Mine, real. Here's my long-haul kit. Lock the core, coffee, jog, read small anchors. Every day, no excuses. Grow slow, bump it 20 minutes, 15 pages, $600 when it fits, not forced. Stay light, say no to creep SUVs, titles, noise. Keep the space. Your challenge this month, pick 1 anchor coffee, walk a page and lock it in. 5 minutes a day. No rush, no pressure, just yours. That's it. That's where I ended a Sunday drive, a splintered bench, a life I built. It's not loud, but it's full. Play it. Less chaos, more you. If you'd met me a year ago, you'd have seen a guy who thought he had it figured out, 34 decent job, coffee in hand, hustling through the fluorescent jungle like it was a badge of honor. I was a pro at looking busy, emails flying, Slack pinging, $5 slots fueling my multitasking delusions while my life slipped through the cracks. My desk was a war zone, my bank account a tightrope, my emotions a roller coaster, and my relationships a noisy blur. I wasn't living, I was surviving, a hamster on a wheel with better Wi-Fi and worse posture. But here I am now, still me, still a goof who spills coffee, but lighter, fuller, and finally in the driver's seat. This book isn't a fairy tale. It's my messy, real as hell journey from chaos to calm. And if I can stumble through it, so can you. Let's rewind to that Thursday, the one that broke me. I was hunched over my laptop, 3 coffees deep, staring at a blank sales report while my phone buzzed like a needy toddler. Jen's, how's it coming? Lit the match. And by night, I was on my couch, cold pizza in hand, scribbling enough in a notebook. I'd snagged from a conference swag bag. That word wasn't a plan, it was a scream. I was done with the grind owning me, done with the noise drowning me, done with a life I didn't recognize. I didn't know where to start, but I knew I couldn't stay there. So I began clumsy, stubborn, 1 step at a time. First came focus, that shaky hour when I turned off my phone, muted the world, and typed something real. It wasn't magic, it was a lifeline. I built blocks 25 minutes, then 90 shutting out the circus of pings and Tom's chatter, and found I could breathe again. Work didn't own me, I owned it, leaving at 5:30 with a clear head and a plate of garlic pasta instead of a takeout bill. Then money, my $3. 47 overdraft shame turned into $1,800 saved. Not because I got rich, but because I cut the crap. $5 slats, $20 pizzas, $30 shirts I didn't need. I brewed my own, cooked my own, and learned enough beats more every time. Emotions were next gen's snappy presentation. Bomb showed me I couldn't outrun the storm in my head. I paused, breathed, named it stressed, scared, and reset. 5 minutes by the river or in a bathroom stall, dodging Tom's "You okay?" I didn't turn into Buddha. I turned into me, steady enough to survive the 9 to 5 without a pizza-fueled meltdown. Habits locked it in 5-minute jogs, grew to 20 coffee became ritual. Reading beat X scrolls, small wins that stacked into a life. I didn't ditch by week 2. They weren't sexy, but they held me. Then the big stuff, rewiring my head to see beyond the cubicle. That rainy deli day, $3 coffee steaming, taught me my job wasn't my soul, it was a tool. I said no to Jen's extras, drove to reservoirs with a $50 guitar, and laughed under a pink gold sky because I could. Relationships shrank, Tom's bar noise faded. Dave's diner talks grew, and I found fullness in 5 people, not 50. The long game tied it together. Coffee stayed, jogs stretched, savings hit $1,800, and that lake trip with Dave brought back my 22-year-old grin. I lived light, less clutter, less pressure, and full more me, more moments. This wasn't a straight line. I screwed up plenty. Last month, I worked till 7, binged X till 1 a.m., and burned a pot of rice so bad my smoke alarm sang soprano. But I reset always, because this isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. I didn't become a minimalist poster boy with an empty apartment and a smug smile. I became a guy with a beat-up Honda, a rusty guitar, and a life I'd fight for. And that's the point. Less chaos didn't empty me, it filled me, because I chose what stayed. Let's talk about you, because if you've made it this far, you're probably where I was. Maybe your inbox is a war zone, your wallet's a tightrope, your head's a storm, and your days blur into a grind you don't love. Maybe you're nodding, thinking, yeah, that's me, buried, tired, stuck. I get it. I lived it. But here's the truth I learned the hard way. You don't need more hours, more cash, more willpower. You need less noise, less waste, less should. And you don't need a guru or a retreat to Bali, though. I'd take the beach. You need you raw, real, ready to take it back. The big message here? Control is yours if you grab it. That Thursday, I was a puppet Jen's strings, my phone strings, my own dumb strings. Focus gave me the scissors. Money sharpened them. Calm steadied my hand. Habits kept me swinging. Rewiring cut the last threads. You're not a hamster, you're a driver, and the wheel's waiting. Start small. Mute your phone for an hour. Skip a $5 slot, breathe through a freakout, and watch it grow. Chaos doesn't own you unless you let it. Next, less is more, but only if it's yours. I didn't ditch lattes to be cheap. I ditched them for me. For $1,800 I could lean on. For drives to reservoirs instead of bar tabs. Cutting Tom's noise wasn't mean it was mercy. Freeing me for Dave's laugh and Liz's kid smashing a toy truck. Living light isn't empty, it's full. When you pick what fuels you, ask, does this matter to me? If not, drop it. No guilt, no FOMO. Fill the space with you, not stuff, not hustle, you. Finally, you choose your game. I could have chased the promotion, the SUV, the 50 Friends Society script says more wins. I didn't. I chose coffee over chaos, a guitar over a grind, 5 people over 50. The long game isn't their rules, it's yours. Science says happiness isn't more money or more likes, it's meaning. And meaning's free if you stop running. I stopped, I built, I lived. You can too, not my life, yours. I'm no hero. I still spill coffee yesterday, on my jeans, mid-jog, classic me. I still slip X scrolls. Late nights, burned rice, but I don't stay down. This journey enough to now isn't a finish line. It's a road, and I'm walking it. Sneakers crunching, guitar in tow. You're on your road, maybe it's a cubicle, maybe it's a couch, maybe it's a dream you've buried. Start walking clumsy, stubborn, you. Here's your kit one last time. Because I'm that guy. Cut one string. Today phone. A yes. A $5 bold. Snip it. Feel it. Pick one fuel. Tomorrow a walk. A call. A page. Small. Yours. Real. Play your game. This week say no to one. Should yes to one want. Build it. Your move. Grab that notebook, any scrap will do, and write your enough. Not mine, yours. Then try it 1 hour, one breath, one choice. That's it. That's where I began a cold pizza, a shaky pen, a life I took back. It's not loud, it's not epic, it's you. Less chaos, more you. Go get it.